and welcome to CampusCare EdTalks. The dimensions of teaching learning are changing tremendously now. A lot of effort is being done to make education student-centric so that they can acquire the necessary and relevant skills needed to become future-ready. Saying so, today in Entab CampusCare EdTalks, we will discuss on how project-based learning can increase students' engagement. To speak on this, we have an experienced school leader with us. He has been in the education field for more than 20 years, been an English teacher for approximately 15 years in premier institutions like St. Mark's School, Jhansi, and St. Conrad's, Agra. He is also the founder principal of TDI International School, Sonipat. Please welcome Alok Edward, sir, Principal, Delhi World School Public School, Agra. Welcome to the CampusCare EdTalks, sir.
Thank you, Ramisha.
To start with, would you like to explain how is project-based learning different from other pedagogical approaches?
Nimisha, to be very honest, now when we talk about the project-based learning, it is what actually teaching should be like, right? It's like as if we seem to have discovered the right approach pretty late, but then well in time. If we are talking about our students to be prepared for the upcoming challenges that the 21st century or the 22nd century is going to throw at them, the rote learning method or the lecture method that we used to follow, or rather that I was taught with, will not be applicable because times have changed drastically. And when we talk about the changing times, naturally the need, the requirement, and of course the skills that a student must have to become employable also has changed a lot. And project-based learning plays a very important role in preparing our students, in making them future ready.
I agree, sir. So, if we, we always talk about 21st century skills like problem solving, critical thinking, or collaboration, and creativity, communication, etc. So, how can project learning help students inculcate these 21st century competencies?
You see, to begin with, if I talk about problem solving, when we talk about project-based learning, it is a child is not taught or trained how to look at a problem. They are rather trained and taught and guided to look for solutions, right? So the focus has now shifted from aiming at the problem rather than looking for solutions, and that's exactly what students are doing right now. Then if you talk about collaboration, you see, no individual can claim that I have done this project individually all by myself, right? You certainly need support, guidance from different quarters, and especially when we talk about project-based learning, the projects are normally given to a group of students, and that group of students is expected to come collectively and then contribute according to their expertise, according to their capabilities, right? So naturally collaboration comes into play automatically. And then of course communication skills, wherever you are assigned a project, then naturally you are expected to present that, you are expected to communicate your ideas, your opinion to your team members, to the other team members, and then finally make a presentation overall. So that again helps the child in developing the communication skills as well. So overall, I believe all the kind of skills that one would be requiring to be prepared to face the challenges that the 21st century is throwing at them, I believe project-based learning is more or less a solution for all of them.
Yeah, I agree, sir. And about students should have good communication skills, and we should teach them from the very early age, I guess.
Correct, very true.
So, sir, researchers show that project-based learning engages and motivates students to learn. So, how has been your experience with this approach?
See, with the change in the system of education, the role of the teacher is also changing. Now, teachers are no longer teachers as they used to be with us. They are rather facilitators, right? And their part of the job is only to facilitate the 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 right direction, the right approach, right, and to guide the students in the correct pattern. Now, uh, if we talk about all these things, then certainly, if I'm sorry, if you could just repeat your question once again.
Yeah, sir. It was, that researchers show that the project-based learning, it engages and motivates students to learn. So, how has been your experience with that?
See, it's like uh, going back again to my training days when I was being trained to be a teacher. Uh, they always used to talk about learning by doing. Right. Now, learning by doing is what exactly project-based learning is all about. Uh, you give them a project, you give them a deadline, you give them a target, and you ask them to prepare that. Right. Now, trial and error method, the mm, arranging knowledge or guidance from other sources, all these things they are collectively doing as a team, and once they practically do things by themselves, then naturally they'll be able to remember that for the rest of their life. So it's like learning for life rather than learning just to cram up things and just pass the examination. Right?
Yeah, definitely, sir. So, sir, in setting up a new teaching approach, and how can teachers be guided in adopting and implementing the project-based learning?
Now, here, this is a very, very important topic, because you see, if I talk about myself as a teacher, uh, I was taught at the time when computer was not even taught as a subject,
Yeah.
right? Now, for us to be able to cope up with the kind of challenges that the inclusion of technology brings, it is very important for us to ensure that the teachers who are teaching our students today are properly trained and thoroughly grilled in this field. Because until and unless me as a teacher, me as a facilitator, until and unless I am not very savvy or not very comfortable with the use of technology, then I will not be able to guide my students as well. So it is imperative that teachers be trained in this field before we we even dream of making this shift.
So, as we just talked about, adopting and implementing about the teachers. So, once while we entered in this pandemic and the school started with the online teaching, were there any cases in your school or nearby about cyberbullying and kids messing around with other kids online?
Fortunately, there were none that happened in my school, of course, but then uh, I have certainly come across, I have peers that we happen to speak to, and I have come across many, many such instances where teachers found it very difficult to handle such instances. But then, you know, I, as an individual, what we did was we ensured that my teachers had a formal training for a week's time before we actually ventured into this online teaching process. Because you see, as I said, teachers like me, we are not very comfortable with using technology. Uh, Thanks to the training that we got for this 1 week time, that enabled us to cope up with things, and we've done fairly well.
And so, what are some steps according to you as an educator that that undertake create a successful project-based learning atmosphere?
Uh, See, I think for this, it is very important for us to train the parents as well. You know? Me as an educator, I am trained fine. The child is being taught or trained in that same fashion. But back home, when the child does not get the same support or the same guidance, then it becomes difficult for the child to cope up with this change of expectations, right? Because in the parents' mindset, for the parents, still teaching is all about sitting down at one place, opening your textbook, reading, making notes, and stuff like that. So that mindset also needs to be changed, and that change will only come when we are able to train the entire society at large, and to begin with the parents, most importantly.
And so, what are the advantages and disadvantages of project-based learning? And do you think that it is really effective?
No, it certainly is effective, no doubt about it. If I talk about the advantages, we've been talking about the advantages so far. But as far as the disadvantage factor is concerned, I really don't see any right now. Once we are going to get involved full time into project-based learning, then of course there will be many teething problems. But the only thing which I can figure out right now will be it would be a little challenging for the teacher to ensure that the syllabus is completed in time, because it will certainly slow down the teaching process to a bit, right? So right now, if I talk about my subject, I mean, there are some 18, 20 odd chapters that a teacher is expected to complete in one academic year, which again is difficult when I'm talking about lecture method of teaching. When we get into the project-based learning, then that certainly will eat into some of my scheduled time of teaching, right? So this is one possibility which I see. But then again, as I said, with every change, there will be challenges, and we as individuals should be able to cope up with that.
And so, what exactly is the role of a teacher in project-based learning? So,
Uh, as I told you initially, the teacher is no longer the teacher now. The teacher is just a facilitator. So the teacher would rather be there to just guide the students in the right direction. That's all. The teacher will only be expected to channelize their focus in the right direction, to channelize their energy in the right areas, and of course to identify the individual capabilities and limitations of a child, and then assign projects accordingly.
yeah, that is true. So, as we talk about students now, so how accurate is that project-based learning explores every type of a student, like auditory, visual, and kinesthetic?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. And sir, so do you think that EdTech can give that boost to project-based learning? So, what are your opinions on that?
Absolutely, it can. And then the best thing, is that uh, they not only will be able to help the students in this area, but they will also be able to help the teachers and the society at large. Because they are not just focusing upon the students, they are also focusing upon the trainers, right? Trainers like us who will be guiding the students ultimately. So that they are going to be a big support.
Sir, ending the session, would you like to, give any advice to students, how they can be stress-free, or any books or any TV series, like any autobiographies and anything?
I would request my students to have a hobby and then pursue that hobby with all sincerity. Right? I mean, be it book reading, be it music, be it gardening, be it coin collection, be it anything, right? Get into a healthy hobby and pursue that hobby to your heart's content. But then at the same time, don't compromise on your academic time as well.
Yeah, agree. So, summing up the key takeaways from the webinar in 21st century, it is widely accepted that project-based learning is a meaningful and proven approach that enhances the standards of teaching and learning. And with this note, I would like to end the session. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today on EdTalks.
Pleasure was all mine, Nimisha. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks
much,
for
sir,
that.
and thank you so much, everyone who joined the session. Thank you, sir.